So as Nate said during the webinar, transparency regulations like the Platform Accountability and Transparency Act are not just about learning more about platforms, but also trying to make them improve their business practices by changing their incentives, exposing them to more public criticism, for example. And I think that that is really helpful, but we should also be aware that it's not a silver bullet. So we have to remember that platforms also have many other incentives that are influencing their behavior, in particular, the need to attract advertisers and advertising revenue. So for example, when we see a lot of criticism of platforms kind of promoting divisive or sensationalist content because it attracts more user engagement, that's very much driven by their need to get users kind of clicking on content, seeing more ads. And we also see that advertisers can exercise quite a strong influence on platforms' content policies, often in a way that's quite counter to the public interest. So for example, we've seen instances of TikTok and YouTube demonetizing or suppressing content that's from queer people or like dealing with gay themes, because a lot of advertisers consider that that's sort of challenging or not family friendly. So it seems like we're seeing this trend of advertisers influencing content policy more and more. And we have to consider these other factors that might hinder or limit the effects of transparency. We also have to be aware, I think, that transparency can empower people to challenge platforms' practices or to influence their behavior, but it doesn't empower everyone equally. Some people and some institutions and organizations are much more able to put pressure on platforms than others. So for example, with the Frances Haugen leaks last year, we saw that Facebook devotes many more resources to moderation in wealthy countries because those consumers are more valuable, because it's under more effective pressure from regulators in the US and Europe than it is elsewhere. So if we have more transparency, it's also likely to intensify the public criticism of Facebook in countries like the US and Europe, where people are more influential, but it will probably just exacerbate those inequalities around the world. So I think that transparency is one important piece of the puzzle, but it's definitely not enough. Sciences Po.